You check an email or something.
Oh, constant.
And then you look up and it's like half an hour, maybe even an hour has just vanished. You've gone deep down some rabbit hole of articles or social feeds. It's genuinely, well, disorienting.
It really is. Or you see like a simple online comment just blow up into something massive, way more intense than anyone expected.
Exactly. It's that feeling, isn't it? Technology just subtly, almost invisibly reshaping our days, influencing how we act, how we see things, often without us even fully grasping it.
Yeah, it creeps in.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging right into that phenomenon. How technology is fundamentally altering human behavior, our development, even our perception of the world itself.
It's a huge topic.
It is, and our mission here is to try and make this really complex subject, well, simple, insightful, and maybe most importantly, practical for you. We'll unpack some surprising facts, dig into the why behind these digital shifts, and hopefully offer some actionable takeaways, things you can actually use to navigate this new environment more consciously.
Sounds good.
And guiding us through this really intricate landscape, we're leaning heavily on Mary Aiken's fantastic book, The Cyber Effect.
That's right. And Mary Aiken, she's not just any observer. She's a forensic cyberpsychologist. That's a pretty unique and frankly critical role these days.
Absolutely.
She works directly with major law enforcement agencies, Interpol, the FBI. So her perspective is just invaluable. She's seen the cyber effect. That's her term firsthand.
The cyber effect. Can you unpack that a bit?
Yeah, she describes it as this kind of mathematical multiplier. It amplifies and accelerates human behavior online. For better, sometimes, but often for worse. Her work gives us this crucial lens to understand the profound but often really subtle impacts of our digital lives.
Okay, so let's start where Aiken does. She really challenges a basic assumption many of us still hold about our digital lives, doesn't she?
She does.
We tend to think of cyberspace as just, I don't know, an extension of the real world, another tool we use. But she argues it's much more than that. It's systemic. It's a completely distinct environment.
Exactly. A new environment with its own unique characteristics that profoundly impact us. One, the cyber effect, our new digital environment.
And the key insight there, it seems, is how this amplification, this change, often happens below our conscious radar. Makes us vulnerable, maybe? Doing things online we wouldn't dream of offline.
That's it, precisely.
Yeah.
Our usual social breaks, the ones honed for real face-to-face interaction, they just don't engage the same way online. Aiken gives a really powerful example of this, time distortion. She suggests a simple experiment, actually, something you can try. Next time you log on, turn off the clock display on your computer or phone, and then every so often, just try to guess how much time has actually passed.
Yeah.
You'll probably be way off.
I probably would be, yeah.
Our natural ability to track time just goes haywire in the digital realm. It creates that feeling of being lost, like you said, or hours just poof, vanishing.
And yet that feeling's so common, but we often just brush it off, don't we? Like, oh, it's just me. I wasn't paying attention. But Aiken says, no, it's systemic. It's a feature of the environment itself.
Exactly. It's built in almost.
So if time perception gets warped, what other fundamental ways does this distinct online place subtly force us to adjust, maybe without us even clocking it? How does she illustrate that?
Well, the danger, she argues, is by denying we've entered a new environment. We're basically navigating unfamiliar territory with the wrong map.
Right.
Leads to misjudgments.
Like using a map of London and New York.
Precisely. She uses a great analogy.
Yeah.
Imagine moving to a new house, a new city, even a whole new country. Your behavior naturally changes, right? You adapt to new surroundings, new customs, new social cues.
Sure, that makes sense. Environmental psychology, right?
Exactly. It confirms the profound impact surroundings have on our bearings, our self-awareness. But when we go online, many people deny they've entered a new environment at all.
Because they're still in their same chair, same room.
Right, so they think nothing's fundamentally changed. And this ignorance, this denial, often leads to really poor judgment, unexpected consequences.
And that's where we see those public face plants, isn't it? Politicians tweeting things they shouldn't, celebrities having meltdowns on social media, private stuff going viral.
Exactly. These individuals aren't necessarily acting wildly out of character compared to their offline selves, but the environment of cyberspace amplifies and accelerates those behaviors. It often reveals underlying tendencies in a very public, very damaging way.
Which brings us right back to Aiken's core concept, the cyber effect itself. You said it's like a mathematical multiplier.
Yeah, that's her definition. Human behavior gets amplified and accelerated online. And when she calls it the Emasiac of this century, for our digital lives, well, that's a big claim.
It is. What does she mean by that exactly?
She's highlighting its fundamental nature. It's almost inescapable, like a foundational equation explaining the core physics or maybe the core psychology of our digital interactions, just like Einstein's equation explains energy and matter.
Okay.
It's this predictable escalation, she argues, that impacts individuals, industry, government, all of society. And it causes constant upheaval and confusion, mostly because we're often totally unaware of the underlying mechanics driving it. 1.2. Technology's double-edged sword. Amplification in action.
So this amplification, it really is a double-edged sword then. On one side, technology is incredibly rewarding, right? It's engaging. It's designed to be seductive for most people, feeds our natural desires for connection, for information.
Absolutely. It's built to be appealing.
But on the other side, Aiken shows how when that tech interacts with something already inside us, an underlying predisposition, a tendency, even a harmless one, things can just escalate dramatically.
It's a critical point she makes. Technology, she emphasizes, wasn't designed with abnormal, deviant, criminal, and vulnerable populations in mind.
Right. It was designed for the mainstream user.
Exactly. And while it can amplify positive human traits, think about altruism, for example, people can become incredibly generous online, organizing global aid, crowdfunding for good causes, maybe even more so than face-to-face.
Sure, we see that.
But it also dramatically escalates the risky and destructive stuff. It's like a mirror, but a magnifying one. It reflects and magnifies what's already there, good and bad.
Let's take cyberstalking. That's a powerful, pretty chilling example you mentioned. How does that illustrate this amplification?
Well, think about it. In the real world, a stalker is usually limited,
Yeah.
right, by physical constraints. They often focus on one victim at a time. It takes physical presence, effort.
Right. Geography matters.
But online, thanks to technology, those physical barriers just evaporate. A cyberstalker can target multiple victims at the same time across different cities, different countries, all from the perceived safety of their own keyboard. It's not just a new method of stalking. Aiken calls it an evolution of criminal behavior. It creates this breeding ground for what she describes as mutations of real-world deviancy. Their reach, their impact, it expands exponentially.
Scary stuff. And this leads to what Aiken calls the AAA engine.
Yes, the AAA engine. Affordability, accessibility, and anonymity. These three things, she argues, are the key drivers, especially for, well, illicit online behaviors.
Okay, break those down. Affordability.
Affordability just means the tools, the platforms for doing harm are cheap, often free. Accessibility means they're readily available to basically anyone with an internet connection.
Okay. And anonymity.
Anonymity is crucial. It reduces the perceived consequences. People feel shielded, less accountable for their actions. Put those three together: cheap, easy, and consequence-free, or seemingly so. And you lower the barriers. You increase the reach. You foster this sense of impunity.
Making risky actions seem much more appealing, much more widespread.
Exactly. That engine powers a lot of the problematic behavior we see online. 2. The landscape of compulsive behaviors and digital addiction.
Okay, the power of that AAA engine really hits home when we start looking at compulsive behaviors and digital addiction. But first, we need to get our terms clear, right? Aiken makes a point of distinguishing between impulsivity and compulsivity. People mix those up all the time.
They do, and it's an important distinction Aiken is careful about. Impulsivity, she defines it as the urge to act spontaneously without reflecting on an action and its consequences. It's that immediate, unthinking reaction.
Like acting before thinking.
Exactly. She gives the tragic example of Alexandra Tobias, the woman who, in a sudden rage over a Farmville game interrupting her, shook her baby to death. A horrific, impulsive, unreflected action.
God, that's awful. And compulsivity.
Compulsivity, on the other hand, is planned. It's repetitive behavior, often driven by a need to reduce anxiety or achieve some kind of specific, often ritualistic outcome.
Like obsessive hand-washing.
Exactly. Or she discusses a disturbing cranking fetish in the book, which involves repetitive, planned, often violent acts. So while they're distinct, really opposite ends of a behavioral spectrum, both impulsivity and compulsivity get dramatically amplified by technology.
So they're two sides of the same challenging coin in the digital age.
You could say that, both fueled by this amplifying environment.
So knowing that technology ramps these things up, it really begs the question, why is it so damn hard to resist these urges online? What's the mechanism underneath it all that keeps us hooked? It comes down to dopamine, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Our old friend dopamine, it's this organic chemical in the brain, super important. It helps regulate movement, emotional responses, and yeah, it's strongly linked to pleasure.
The pleasure chemical.
Well, yes, but more specifically, it fires up when we explore, when we seek out new information or potential rewards. Jack Panksepp, a really prominent neuroscientist, called this seeking system the granddaddy of the systems.
The granddaddy.
Yeah, like a fundamental motivational engine in mammals. It gets us out of bed, drives us to find food, shelter, mates. It's the engine of curiosity, engagement. Vital for survival, really.
It's that buzz of anticipation, then. Aiken uses that analogy of scratch-off lottery cards, right?
She does, and it's a great one. Even when you lose, right? That little tease of matching symbols, or nearly matching them, gives you a little dopamine surge, a hit of excitement, anticipation. It makes the act of scratching itself feel fun, even if you don't win.
The heart-stopper effect, she calls it, that moment of suspense.
Exactly. And technology is brilliant at exploiting this. It constantly feeds us tiny doses of potential reward, unpredictable hits.
Keeps us coming back for more.
Constantly. Technology delivers, as Aiken puts it, wild surprises, pulsing with breaking news, statistics, personal messages, and entertainment. It's this continuous, unpredictable reward system. Psychologists call it a variable reinforcement schedule, and it taps directly into our primal seeking drive, makes it incredibly hard to resist.
And the deeper insight here, it seems, isn't just that we get addicted, but maybe how this constant checking, this constant seeking actually rewires our brains, makes us less patient.
I think that's a huge part of it. We're being trained for instant gratification, expecting immediate novel stimuli all the time. And that, in turn, can make the slower, maybe richer rewards of the real world, deep work, sustained focus, real relationships feel comparatively, well, dull, less compelling.
Which is a worrying thought. 2.3. Manifestations of internet addictive behaviors. So this dopamine drive, combined with that AAA engine, affordable, accessible, anonymous, it shows up in some really concerning internet addictive behaviors. Let's start with one almost everyone can relate to. Mobile phone addiction.
Yeah, the stats on this are quite something. They really underscore how pervasive it is. Facebook users, for instance, Aiken cites, they spend an average of 50 minutes a day just on the site.
50 minutes. Wow.
Yeah, get this. A staggering 61% of people sleep with their mobile phone either right under their pillow or on the nightstand next to them.
Guilty as charged sometimes.
Right. And it's not just a casual habit. Many people describe feeling genuinely uncomfortable, even anxious, when they forget their phone or can't check it. That's a clear sign of withdrawal, of separation anxiety.
Yeah, that phantom vibration feeling.
Exactly. A colleague of Aiken's even tried to run a study. They wanted participants to give up their phones for just a few days. Guess what happened?
Nobody would do it.
Not a single person was willing. Which, ironically, proved the point more powerfully than the intended study ever could. Shows the grip these devices have.
That really is stark. So for you listening, what are some simple, practical remedies? How can we regain some control? Aiken offers some concrete tips, right? Practical takeaways.
She does. First, she says, check your checking. Become actively aware of that almost unconscious, constant checking habit. And stop it.
How? Just willpower.
By being mindful about it. Setting intentions. Literally pausing before you reach for the phone. Ask yourself, do I really need to check this right now? Second, set clear time limits for your online activity. For yourself, and importantly for your kids too. Remember, they model our behavior.
Good point. What else?
Third, Aiken pushes for what she calls disconnect to reconnect. Simple idea. Turn off devices at mealtimes. Put them away when you're actually talking to family or friends. Make eye contact. Foster that real-world connection.
Makes sense. What about for people who feel they need something stronger?
For them, yeah, more drastic steps might be needed. Uninstall the apps that constantly beckon you. Turn off all non-essential notifications. Those little red dots are designed to trigger you. Intentionally use airplane mode for chunks of time when you need to focus or just rest. Or even go cold turkey for a bit, like a digital detox.
Turn off, tune in, reconnect.
Exactly. It's like a modern twist on Timothy Leary's old mantra, updated for the digital age. Turn off, tune in, and reconnect with your actual life offline.
Okay, beyond the phone in our pocket, where else does this dopamine drive hit hard? Often it's those digital storefronts, right? Always open, always tempting. Let's talk compulsive shopping, especially on places like eBay, which Aiken uses as a key example.
Indeed, online shopping. It's almost perfectly designed to tap into that seeking drive. You've got endless variety, instant access to information, that feeling of control over the process, and of course, The thrill of the chase, hunting for a bargain.
The reward is always just a click away.
Exactly. And the online world just pours fuel on that fire with constant enticements. Pop-up ads tailored just for you. Digital coupons, flash sales flashing everywhere. Endless images of stuff.
It removes all the friction.
Completely. Aiken shares this quote from an eBay blog post that just captures it perfectly. The user wrote something like, "I feel a literal rush winning auctions. I love not having to leave home, where I can browse stores online at any hour in my PJs."
Right there, you see the convenience, the control, the addictive potential.
It lays it bare, the seduction of it.
So how do you know if it's just enjoying online shopping versus, a real problem?
Aiken lists some signs, right? Some practical red flags for you to look out for.
Yes, key indicators. Things like feeling lost or anxious if you don't have your credit cards with you, lying to family or friends about how much you're spending, feeling shame or guilt after you buy things, having obsessive thoughts about money or the next big sale, constantly juggling accounts or credit cards to hide the spending.
Hmm.
Aiken suggests if you recognize, say, 4 or more of those signs in yourself, it might genuinely be time to seek professional advice. It could be a serious compulsive behavior that needs addressing.
Okay, that's really practical advice. Now, probably one of the most studied and sometimes tragically alarming types of digital addiction is internet gaming disorder, or IGD. You mentioned it hits young men particularly hard.
Yes, it's most prevalent among young men, and critically, it often co-occurs with other serious issues, mood disorders like depression, anxiety, sometimes ADHD.
And the consequences can be devastating. Aiken shares some really shocking stories. They're truly sobering. The human cost. There's the death of Chris Staniforth from what they called gamer's thrombosis, basically a blood clot from extreme, prolonged inactivity while gaming.
Just sitting for too long.
For days, sometimes. Then there was the Taiwanese gamer who died after 3 solid days of play without rest. And perhaps the most heartbreaking, the Korean parents who got so absorbed in raising a virtual child in a game that their actual real baby starved to death.
That's almost unbelievable. It's horrific.
It shows the extreme level of immersion, the potential break from reality that gaming can induce for some people. The virtual world becomes more compelling, more demanding than the physical one.
Which really makes you wonder about intent. Are these games designed to be this addictive? Is Aiken suggesting designers are deliberately exploiting vulnerabilities? Or is it just an unforeseen side effect of making games engaging?
Well, according to Aiken, it's often quite intentional. She argues that game designers are incredibly sophisticated psychologists, whether they call themselves that or not. They use what are known as compulsion loops.
Compulsion loops.
Yes, specific sequences of actions and rewards, carefully crafted to intentionally keep players hooked. They exploit that natural seeking drive we talked about, constantly promising more rewards, keeping you chasing. The game itself becomes the substance, as she puts it, rather than just entertainment.
So it crosses a line.
In Aiken's view, yes, it crosses into human exploitation, using sophisticated psychological tricks to keep users glued, often to an unhealthy degree. And she mentions those viral videos, gaming freakouts.
Yeah, kids having meltdowns over games.
To a cyberpsychologist, she says, those aren't funny at all. They're clear signs of deep immersion, addiction, a loss of control that's genuinely disturbing.
And it's particularly concerning for kids with ADHD, you mentioned. That intense focus might look like a good thing to parents, but it's not.
Yes, profoundly so. Children with ADHD often struggle with attention regulation, right? So they can get deeply, intensely engrossed in these fast-paced, stimulating games.
Which might make them seem calm or occupied to a parent.
Exactly, a false sense of calm. But that quiet time might actually be detrimental. It's intense overstimulation, when what a child with ADHD might benefit more from is actually a quieting experience, less frantic activity. And the science backs this up. Brain imaging studies show that cravings for gaming trigger similar neurobiological patterns to cravings for drugs and alcohol. It led the American Psychiatric Association to classify IGD as a condition warranting more study, potentially a true addiction.
Wow. Okay, and finally in this category, there's cybersex addiction. Aiken touches on this too.
Briefly, yes. She explains it's often a complex addiction, harder to treat, frequently starting with early exposure to pornography. That AAA engine, again, affordability, accessibility, anonymity, creates the perfect storm for hypersexual disorder to thrive. It removes social stigma, makes content instantly available, constantly.
And she raises a concern about future tech, like VR.
Yeah, a chilling concern about things like Oculus Rift, the potential for amplified immersion, for virtual reality to dramatically escalate these behaviors, blurring the lines between fantasy and reality, We're only just beginning to grapple with what that might mean.
Yeah.
2.4, the uncanny valley, a warning for human connection.
Okay, as we talk about technology shaping our behaviors, even our relationships, it brings us to a really fascinating concept from robotics,
Ah,
the uncanny valley.
yes, Masahiro Mori's insight.
Right, the idea that our liking for robots or avatars increases as they become more human-like, but only up to a point. When they get too human-like but aren't quite perfect, our affinity crashes.
We feel.
Weirded out. Revulsion, even.
It's a very distinct feeling. And what's truly fascinating, Mori pointed out, is that this reaction isn't just cultural learning. It seems deeply primal, hardwired.
Hardwired? How so?
Well, studies have shown even monkeys exhibit this uncanny valley reflex. They prefer looking at real monkey faces, or even clearly cartoonish ones, over highly realistic synthetic monkey faces that aren't quite right.
Wow, so it's deep-seated.
Mori suggested it might be an evolutionary instinct, a kind of self-preservation mechanism, an evolutionary red flag, warning us away from things that look human but maybe aren't alive or aren't healthy, a signal to trust that gut feeling of unease.
So what are the bigger implications here? As tech increasingly mediates our relationships, offers synthetic companions, Maury's idea isn't just about creepy robots, is it? It's a deeper warning.
Precisely. It's an evolutionary red flag warning us against any technology that mimics intimacy but doesn't deliver its authentic depth or complexity.
Okay, so the insight isn't just revulsion.
No, the profound insight is that we might be, perhaps inadvertently, training ourselves to accept good enough digital connection. Things like machine love, preferring idealized anime characters, purely online relationships. Accepting these might come at the cost of doing the harder, messier, but ultimately more rewarding work of building real human relationships.
So it could keep us from learning true intimacy.
That's the concern. Mori's advice was quite clear. Pursue non-human designs for technology. Don't try to make robots perfectly human-like. Respect that uncanny feeling. Don't try to design beyond human instinct just because technically we can.
It's a call to acknowledge where tech might be leading us away from genuine, emotionally rich connection, and maybe choose paths that prioritize real interaction instead.
Exactly. Consciously choose. 3. Children and teens in the cyber frontier. Nurturing the next generation.
This deep dive into the cyber effect really has to address the most vulnerable group, children and teens. They're developing brains, they're forming identities, they're right on the front line of this digital revolution. Let's start with early childhood. Aiken stresses this is a hugely crucial period.
Absolutely vital. Maybe the most critical takeaway from her whole work, actually. The baby's brain is just this incredible engine of growth. It forms, get this, 700 to 1,000 new neural connections every single second in the first 3 years.
Wow, every second.
It's astonishing. And this period is absolutely paramount for developing higher-level functions thinking, emotional regulation, social skills, and consistent interaction with a caregiver, what Aiken calls face time, the real kind, not the app.
Right, actual face-to-face time.
Yes, sustained eye contact, responsive facial expressions, loving touch. These are essential for creating a secure emotional attachment. It's how kids learn to bond, learn to love. Without it, they can literally fail to thrive.
Like those tragic historical studies of feral children.
Exactly. Raised in extreme isolation, they often never developed basic human social skills, never learned to bond. It underscores just how critical that responsive human caregiver is. It's non-negotiable for healthy development.
And the pediatric experts agree, right? The American Academy of Pediatrics has strong recommendations on this. It's not just Aiken's opinion.
That's correct. The AAP has a clear, science-driven policy. They actively discourage any media use for children under 2. 0 screen time.
Not just limit it, discourage it entirely.
Yes. And this isn't just a random suggestion. It's based on solid research findings about potential harm to eyesight, delays in developing empathy, impaired social skills, and even deficits in visual motor skills like the basic ability to build a tower of blocks or a sandcastle. And Dr. Dimitri Christakis, a leading researcher, she cites, theorizes that fast-paced media, like many kids' shows, can overstimulate a baby's orienting response that makes them turn towards novelty.
Overstimulates?
It bombards their developing brain. And the concern is, this could potentially harm brain development long-term, maybe even create a kind of sensory arousal addiction, a craving for high-speed thrills that makes the slower, more nuanced pace of real life seem boring later on.
So those seemingly harmless educational apps, or what parents sometimes call shut-up toys, using a tablet to placate a toddler. They're not just convenient, they could actually be harmful.
Far from harmless, Aiken argues. Yes, they offer undeniable convenience for stressed-out parents, we get that. But the developmental cost could be really significant.
Because kids need unstructured play.
Vitally. They need at least 60 minutes of unstructured play every day. And this isn't just free time, it's crucial work. It's how they develop imagination, creativity, decision-making, problem-solving skills.
Right, and early math, fine motor skills.
Exactly. Sorting, counting, manipulating physical objects. Plus, Aiken raises another fascinating point. Interactive apps often defy basic physics, right? Objects explode, disappear, reappear illogically.
Yeah, cartoon physics.
Well, that could potentially interfere with a child's grasp of object permanence, that critical developmental milestone where a baby learns that things still exist even when they can't see them. It could create real cognitive confusion.
Okay, this is an area where parents really need simple, practical, effective guidance, cutting through all the marketing hype about educational tech.
Agreed. And Aiken offers just that. Here are her key practical takeaways for parents of babies and toddlers. Simple, actionable stuff. First, don't use digital babysitters or robot nannies. Human connection is irreplaceable. Full stop. Second, consciously prioritize real, face-to-face interaction for your child's brain development and emotional health. Third, don't be fooled by often misleading educational marketing claims. Screen time can actually cause developmental delays, attention issues, despite the hype.
Peace.
Very skeptical. Fourth, demand scientific evidence from toy and app developers. Ask them, where's the proof your product actually has positive cyber effects? Fifth, do a cyber switch of the baby's domain. Get devices out of their immediate environment.
Clear the decks.
And finally, maybe the simplest advice. Remember, there's absolutely no harm in waiting to introduce screens. Be cautious. Err on the side of less, especially in those crucial first few years. 3.2. Adolescents navigating identity, relationships, and risks online.
Okay, let's shift focus now to adolescence, a period of, well, intense identity formation, emotional ups and downs, huge peer influence. The online world throws a lot into that already complex mix, sometimes with really troubling results. Take the whole selfie culture, for instance, and its link to narcissism.
Right. Adolescence is naturally when teens are intensely focused on appearance, experimenting with who they are, looking for validation. The selfie becomes, as Aiken calls it, a highly manipulated artifact. It's the frontline cyber self, this carefully curated projection of identity.
And we've seen some pretty extreme examples that seem to show a real lack of empathy or maybe amplified self-absorption.
We have. Aiken mentions cases like Malik Whiter, the student taking a selfie with his pregnant teacher who was clearly in distress, or the woman posing for a selfie near a suicide scene at the Brooklyn Bridge.
Just shocking lack of awareness.
These aren't just isolated weird incidents. They raise serious questions about how the online environment might actually foster or amplify narcissistic traits, maybe diminish the ability to see and respond to other people's suffering.
What is it about the online world specifically that might do that? How does that constant feedback loop affect a developing sense of self?
Well, it connects directly to sociologist Charles Cooley's old idea of the looking glass self. We figure out who we are based on how others react to us, right?
Through their feedback.
Exactly. But online, this becomes what Aiken calls a virtual tsunami of feedback. An endless, relentless stream of likes, comments, shares, reactions. It's overwhelming, continuous, doesn't even stop when they're asleep.
Always on.
Always on. And this constant pressure to curate, to perform this cyber self for an invisible audience, it can lead to deep identity confusion. Blurs the lines between their real, maybe messy, authentic self and this polished virtual identity. It's exhausting and profoundly disorienting for your young person still figuring things out.
And then beyond identity, there are the really serious risks online.
Yeah.
Sexting, self-harm, and that terrifying thing, sextortion.
These are critical concerns, yes. Sexting, for example, sending or receiving explicit images.
Yep.
It's become incredibly common. Aiken cites figures suggesting maybe half of U.S. teens have done it.
Half. Wow.
Which raises complex questions about what's considered normal now in this digital space, especially given how fast norms shift online. But the risks are huge, with devastating real-world fallout.
Like revenge porn.
Exactly. Explicit images shared by angry ex-partners, a deeply damaging trend. And then there's sextortion, where online predators blackmail teens, often using images the teens shared consensually at first, threatening to distribute them unless demands are met.
And the Amanda Todd story.
A truly heartbreaking example. The Canadian teen who died by suicide after one impulsive act online led to years of relentless bullying and sextortion. Shows just how dangerous this can be.
And self-harm is also a major worry, with online forums potentially creating dangerous echo chambers.
Yes, tragically, self-destructive behavior gets amplified online too. There's readily available information, forums that specifically target vulnerable youth. Aiken mentions cases like Jesse Logan, where online communities essentially provided instructions and validation for self-harm, leading to suicide.
It's awful.
And adding to all this is what Aiken calls the privacy paradox. Teens often crave privacy intensely in their real lives, right? Guard their rooms, their diaries, yet paradoxically they share incredibly sensitive personal information online, seemingly oblivious to risks like identity theft, cybercrime.
Why the disconnect?
Aiken suggests privacy just means fundamentally different things across generations. Parents think physical space. Teens think control over specific information shared with specific people, maybe not realizing how widely it can spread or who else can see it. Creates a dangerous gap in understanding.
And the group dynamics online. That seems to be a big factor too, leading to riskier behavior.
Absolutely. Large online groups of teens are really susceptible to groupthink. Individual critical thinking gets overridden by the perceived group consensus, and also the risky shift phenomena, where groups tend to make more extreme, more deviant decisions than individuals would alone.
So the crowd makes people bolder, but not necessarily wiser.
Exactly. Aiken points to the Canyon City High School sexting ring as a chilling example.
Yeah.
Hundreds of nude images were circulated among students using these insidious ghost apps.
Ghost apps, what are those?
They're apps designed to hide activity. Messages or photos might disappear after being viewed, or the app itself might be disguised as something innocent, like a calculator. Makes it incredibly hard for parents or authorities to track what's happening.
Oh.
This collective behavior, fueled by the illusion of privacy and group solidarity, normalizes things that would be totally unacceptable offline.
Okay, the vulnerability of kids online inevitably brings us to some of the darkest aspects. Online predators and radicalization. How do they leverage these digital spaces? What makes gaming environments, for instance, so effective for them? This is where it gets really quite scary.
It is deeply concerning, especially in those multiplayer violent shooter games. Boys aged roughly 8 to 12 seem particularly vulnerable there. Predators are often master manipulators, and these games give them an ideal environment to, as Aiken puts it, harvest data.
Harvest data? Like what?
They listen in, analyze voice patterns, language use, gauge emotional stability, look for signs of social isolation or family problems. Then they use all this intel to build trust, grooming victims slowly over time, eventually exploiting them.
And parents might have no idea.
Often not. What makes it even more dangerous is the lack of supervisory visibility online. Parents often think, oh, he's safe in his bedroom just playing a game. But in that virtual space, Aiken says, nobody is in charge.
That perception of no authority.
Exactly. That perception encourages risky behavior and allows predators to operate unseen, hidden right there in plain sight within the game.
The Slender Man murder case is such a stark, chilling example of how online fantasy can bleed into real-world violence, isn't it?
It is one of the most disturbing illustrations. Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weir, two 12-year-old girls, essentially self-radicalized within this immersive online community built around a fictional horror character, Slender Man.
They came to believe he was real.
They genuinely came to believe they had to kill someone, their friend, to become his proxies, to appease him. It vividly shows how shared delusions within certain online communities can escalate to horrific, real-world violence, especially among vulnerable kids still figuring out reality versus fantasy.
The immersion can be that powerful.
Combined with a lack of critical thinking skills, perhaps, and few real-world anchors, it can lead to catastrophe. And finally, Aiken brings up the bystander effect.
How does that apply online?
You know the phenomenon. People are less likely to help someone if lots of other people are around, assuming someone else will step in. Online, that gets amplified enormously. The sheer size of the potential online crowd can make individuals look away from, say, crimes against innocence, assuming someone else is seeing it, someone else will report it, leads to inaction. 3.3. Responsible guardianship in the digital age.
Okay, given these profound, often terrifying challenges for kids and teens online, what can be done? What are the concrete steps for parents, for society? Aiken really emphasizes that parental mediation is key.
It is key, but it's also an incredibly demanding full-time job in itself. The statistics she cites are pretty depressing. Only about 1/3 of families consistently provide all 4 types of mediation she identifies.
Which are?
Using technological filters first. Second, actually talking with kids about online risks and behavior. Third, setting clear rules. And fourth, actively supervising their online activity.
Only a third manage all four.
Apparently, it highlights what a huge undertaking this is for parents, trying to keep up in this rapidly changing digital world.
And regarding adult content, it's not just about accidental stumbling, is it? The algorithms themselves play a role.
A huge role. Online algorithms are often designed to prioritize sensationalism, anything that grabs engagement. That makes it incredibly easy for kids, even with some filters active, to run into deeply age-inappropriate stuff: pornography, drug promotion, hate speech, pro-anorexia sites.
It's not like the old days of a magazine rack at the store.
Exactly. It's not hidden behind a counter. Online, the adult section is actively, algorithmically trying to jump out at them, personalized, and pushed right into their feeds.
So just hoping for the best, assuming filters catch everything? That's not enough.
Not nearly enough. Aiken uses this powerful reference to the Situation 21 axiom. It came from the security failures at the 1972 Munich Olympics.
What was that?
Security organizers there basically ignored or rejected a worst-case scenario plan, which then tragically unfolded. It's a grim reminder, she says, that merely hoping for the best will not prevent the worst. Parents have to actively consider the risks, prepare for likely exposure, have those difficult conversations proactively.
And beyond just protecting them, it's about building resilience.
Yes, exactly. Fostering resilience, that ability to bounce back from adversity, from difficult experiences. And resilience, crucially, can be learned. It's not about tough love or shielding kids from everything. It's about equipping them with the emotional and cognitive skills to cope with tough realities online and off.
It really sounds like this goes beyond just individual parents, though. It feels like a broader societal issue, a collective responsibility. Are other countries actually taking bigger, maybe legislative steps?
Some are, yes. Moving beyond just putting the onus on parents. France, for example, has banned TV programming specifically targeted at infants, and mandates warnings about TV's potential impact on kids under 3.
Interesting.
Taiwan has gone even further. They've legislated strict time limits on electronic device when a kid's under 18, banned it entirely for under 2s, and actually hold parents legally accountable if kids overuse devices to the point of harm.
Wow, holding parents legally accountable, that's significant.
It is. And Aiken states her position unequivocally here. She says, "We cannot gamble with the future development of children who will someday be adults who weren't cared for and raised in the best way." She fears creating a generation of what I describe as cyber-feral children.
Cyber-feral children, that's a strong term.
It is. She argues passionately that we need to protect the rights of the child online, treat the prevalence of age-inappropriate content as an international children's rights issue, not just a parenting problem. And that demands a collective effort: society, industry, governments working together to build safer digital environments. 4. Navigating the dark. Cybercrime and digital security.
Okay, shifting gears slightly. As we move from protecting kids to protecting ourselves and our digital lives more broadly, we inevitably have to touch on the darker side. Cybercrime, digital security. Most of us, we only really see the tip of the iceberg, right? The surface web, websites found via Google. But Aiken pulls back the curtain on a much larger, much darker reality underneath.
That's right. The deep web, the part not indexed by standard search engines, is estimated to be maybe 100 times larger, maybe more, than the surface web we use daily. It's vast databases, private networks, internal sites.
And within that deep web are the darknets.
Exactly. Darknets are intentionally hidden, untraceable parts of the deep web. You need specific, anonymizing software like the Tor browser to even access them.
Tor. I've heard of that.
And what's really fascinating, and maybe disturbing, is that Tor itself was initially developed with U.S. federal funding. The goal was laudable: identity protection, secure communication for journalists, activists, intelligence agents.
Oh, really? It wasn't built for crime.
No, its design for anonymity, however, is precisely what makes darknets such a fertile breeding ground for illegal operations. It inadvertently created a safe haven for cybercriminals.
And that anonymity plus the sheer scale, it must create huge headaches for law enforcement.
Huge is an understatement. The challenges are staggering. You've got almost infinite hiding places for illicit stuff. Sites constantly relocate to new, temporary addresses to avoid being shut down.
Like digital whack-a-mole.
Pretty much. And adding to that, these criminal operations almost exclusively use untraceable virtual currencies, like Bitcoin back then, Monero now maybe. Makes financial tracking, seizing assets, incredibly difficult for authorities.
So anonymity, constant movement, untraceable money. It's like a lawless frontier.
That's a very good way to describe it. Traditional investigative methods often just don't work there. 4.2. inside cybercrime markets.
So what kinds of illegal things are actually being bought and sold in these hidden services on the darknet? It sounds like it goes way beyond just, selling drugs.
Oh, absolutely, way beyond. One of the most common things you find is the sale of stolen credit card information dumps, they call them. Aiken describes sites like McDumpalls.
McDumpalls? Serious?
Seriously. It even had this disturbing mascot, like a gangster Ronald McDonald, and offered refunds for declined cards to keep its criminal customers happy. Shows the level of professionalism.
That's bizarrely mundane for something so illegal, but it gets worse.
Much worse. You find assassination for hire sites, literally. Yeah. With chillingly direct mottos like, the best place to put your problems is in a grave. The darknet offers a marketplace for almost any horrific service imaginable, sadly.
Unbelievable. And then there was Silk Road. Aiken really focuses on that as a kind of landmark darknet market. It was almost philosophical in its aims, wasn't it? Which makes it even more interesting in a dark way.
It did have that veneer.
Yeah.
Silk Road was this notorious online bazaar, mostly for drugs, founded by Ross Ulbricht. He operated under the name Dread Pirate Roberts.
Well, like from The Princess Bride.
Exactly. And he framed it not just as a marketplace, but as a libertarian experiment, a
Yeah.
Walmart of drugs, he called it, where people could buy and sell freely, supposedly taking back their liberty from government overreach.
So it had an ideology.
It did. It even fostered a community-fueled drug advice, product reviews, discussions about libertarianism. It created this highly efficient, strangely self-regulating criminal ecosystem.
But the reality, the human cost, was far from those ideals, obviously.
Obviously. During its run, maybe 2.5 years, Silk Road generated staggering revenue. Prosecutors estimated over $1.2 billion in sales.
Billion with a B.
Yes. But the human consequences were horrific. Prosecutors directly linked several deaths to drugs bought on the site, including a young man named Brian who fatally overdosed on heroin purchased there.
It's tragic.
It starkly highlights what happens when that AAA engine, affordable, accessible, anonymous, gets harnessed for criminal enterprise on a massive scale, even if it's wrapped in some kind of philosophical justification. 4.3. The psychology of cybercrime.
So what makes these cybercriminals tick? Is there a typical profile? What does Aiken's research, maybe talking to ethical hackers, tell us about the psychology behind operating in these dark spaces?
Aiken worked with an ethical hacker named Ralph Ecamendia, and they identified some common traits among criminal hackers. Usually a high tolerance for risk, definitely. An intense desire to control situations, to outsmart systems and people, obviously advanced tech skills.
And a disregard for the law.
A fundamental disregard, yeah. They often rationalize it, see laws as invalid or unjust barriers, and Aiken adds this provocative Freudian angle. She describes hacking sometimes as a psychosexual urge to penetrate.
Whoa!
She notes that line always gets a reaction, wakes up even jaded cybersecurity pros in her lectures. Suggests a deeper, maybe unconscious drive beyond just money or disruption.
Interesting. What about something like cyber piracy, sites like the Pirate Bay? Is that driven by similar motives, or is it different?
The founders of the Pirate Bay, much like Ulbricht with Silk Road, also claimed their motivation wasn't primarily theft. They framed it as disrupting corrupt capitalism, arguing for the practical, moral, and philosophical issues of file sharing. Digital Robin Hoods again.
But the effect is still content theft on a massive scale.
Absolutely. And the sheer ease of access, the minimal perceived risk, means huge numbers of ordinary people engage in it. Pirating shows like Game of Thrones became so widespread it almost normalized the activity.
So mass participation shifts the morals.
It seems to. It subtly challenges existing intellectual property laws, makes enforcement incredibly difficult, like those educational warning letters the UK sent to file sharers. They often just get ignored because the behavior feels normal to so many.
This brings us back to that criminology theory. Aiken applies routine activity theory, RAT. Seems especially relevant here.
It's incredibly relevant, yes. RAT basically says crime happens when three things come together in time and space. 1, a motivated offender. 2, a suitable target. And 3, the absence of a capable guardian.
Okay. Offender, target, no guardian.
Now apply that to cyberspace.
Yeah.
Aiken calls it cyberat. On the deep web, you have hundreds of thousands of highly motivated offenders constantly looking for opportunities.
Yeah.
You have an almost infinite pool of suitable targets. That's ubiquitous victimology. Everyone with a digital footprint is a potential target.
Okay.
And the critical problem, the glaring, pervasive absence of capable guardians. Online, there's that widespread feeling that nobody's in charge. Minimal authority, minimal chance of getting caught, which unfortunately is often true.
And that lack of oversight enables all the bad behavior.
Exactly. It directly encourages and facilitates risky, illegal, deviant acts. 4.4. Protecting ourselves in a vulnerable world.
Okay, so we live in this world of ubiquitous victimology, where the criminals are hitting but we aren't. And with, what, billions of connected devices out there, what can we as individuals actually do? How do we protect ourselves in this increasingly vulnerable digital world? What are the simple, practical steps?
We have to start by acknowledging a harsh truth. These devices are multiplying like crazy, and a shocking number of hacks, breaches, data thefts stem from really simple security failures, things that could be prevented.
Like weak passwords.
Weak passwords, clicking on bad links, not updating software. The basics. And while antivirus software is absolutely necessary, it's fighting an uphill battle. Aiken cites estimates of maybe 200,000 new malware samples identified every single day.
200,000 a day, that's insane.
It's a constant arms race, which leads to Aiken's crucial point, the weakest link in any secure system, the human. Our behavior, our choices are often the way in for the bad guys.
So we need to be smarter, more vigilant, maybe even think like a hacker, as they say. Is that practical?
It's a good mindset to adopt, yes. Understanding their tactics helps you defend against them. Like social engineering, that's the art of tricking people into giving up info, like passwords, through psychological manipulation, not technical skill.
Playing on trust or fear.
Exactly. Or scareware, those fake virus warnings that pop up trying to frighten you into installing their malicious software. Being aware of these tricks is the first step.
So practical tips. What are the key takeaways for our listeners? Simple, practical things.
Okay, simple and practical. Always, always use stronger, unique passwords for every single important account. Don't reuse them. Avoid easy-to-guess variations on a theme. Aiken likens breaking predictable passwords to how the Allies cracked the Enigma code in WWII. Lazy operators using predictable settings were the weak link.
Okay, you need strong passwords. Got it. What else?
Be incredibly wary of unsolicited emails or messages, asking for personal info, or urging you to click links. Update your software promptly. Use multi-factor authentication wherever possible. And Aiken also makes this interesting provocative suggestion. Maybe we need a new metric, a technology quotient, or TQ.
TQ, like IQ.
Kind of, to identify tech-talented individuals early and nurture them towards ethical, beneficial uses of their skills, guiding them away from the dark side before they get drawn in.
Interesting idea. So what's the big overarching message here for personal security?
It really comes down to empowerment through knowledge. Aiken's core belief is the more you know about cyber effects, the more protected you will be. It's about fostering personal awareness, understanding the risks inherent in this digital environment, and taking proactive, informed steps. Not about being paranoid, but about being smart, conscious, and engaged with your own digital safety. 5. The cyber frontier. Towards adaptation and responsible design.
Okay, this brings us to a really crucial forward-looking point Aiken makes. Technology, the internet. It's not going away, right? It's not about wishing it away or trying to go back to some pre-digital utopia. It's about adaptation.
Absolutely. Technology, she says, has become as natural as the air we breathe. It's utterly necessary for modern life work, education, connection, everything. Abstinence just isn't a realistic option for most people anymore.
So the challenge isn't if we use it, but how.
Exactly. It's an evolutionary challenge, really. We need to shift our focus, move beyond just talking about addiction, which implies it's solely an individual failing, and focus more on adaptation. Learning how to navigate this new environment effectively, consciously, in a way that serves our actual well-being.
Which requires knowing ourselves better.
Profound self-awareness, yes. Understanding how all things cyber, as she puts it, affect our behavior. Especially crucial for people who might already have issues with behavioral control or high impulsivity. It's about developing digital literacy, digital citizenship, digital resilience for a world that's inescapably cyber-centric. 5.2. Redesigning for humanity. The Cyber Magna Carta.
So if the basic structure, the fundamental architecture of the internet and many platforms are part of the problem designed maybe more for engagement and profit than for human well-being, then maybe the solution involves a fundamental redesign. Aiken proposes this shift from just user-friendly to truly human-friendly design. What does that mean? What would that actually look like? Seems like a key practical insight.
It's a really profound distinction and central to her call for change. User-friendly historically often just meant easy to use or increasingly addictively engaging, optimizing for clicks, time on site, business metrics.
Right, keeps the user used.
Human-friendly design, though, would start from a different place. You would acknowledge that tech often promises more than it delivers. like social media promising connection, but maybe delivering anxiety or comparison. It acknowledges tech can crowd out the substance of real life.
So what would human-friendly design do?
In practice, it could mean apps designed with built-in limits. Maybe they gently fade to gray after a certain amount of time. Platforms that default to maximum privacy settings instead of minimum. Devices that actively encourage real-world breaks or interaction.
Like a social network nudging you to actually call a friend instead of just scrolling their pictures.
Exactly. Things like that. It means products that are secure by design and private by design, respecting human well-being as the default setting, not an afterthought the user has to fight for. It challenges the current model where we click agree to endless terms and basically absolve companies of liability.
So holding tech companies more accountable.
Yes. Aiken argues tech companies, like oil companies responsible for spills, should be accountable for the spills and effects their products have on humanity. We need new standards and new frameworks for cares and concerns, moving beyond purely profit-driven design decisions.
And achieving that kind of fundamental shift. It can't just be one discipline, right? She calls for a transdisciplinary approach and mentions Tim Berners-Lee's idea of a cyber Magna Carta.
Exactly. Academics often look at this through their own narrow disciplinary lens, psychology, sociology, computer science. But the problem is multifaceted. It needs collaboration. Science, industry, governments, communities, families, all working together to map out a better path.
And the cyber Magna Carta, what's that about?
Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the World Wide Web, called for basically a global bill of rights for the digital age. Principles like universal access, privacy, freedom of expression, data ownership. Aiken builds on this, even floating the idea of a NIPR net for kids.
NIPR net, like the military network.
Yeah, NIPR net, the non-classified Internet Protocol Router Network. It provides a protected, curated internet for sensitive but unclassified government info. She wonders if we could create something similar for children, a shielded online space, separate from the Wild West of the open internet.
A walled garden, almost.
Perhaps. It points to the need for a fundamental global debate about governance. How do we balance the amazing freedom of the internet with the essential need for ethical accountability, robust protection, especially for kids and vulnerable groups? The challenges are immense international cooperation, fighting economic incentives that favor exploitation, defining what human-friendly even means across cultures.
And you mentioned the uncanny valley earlier. Does that come back here as a kind of guidepost for this human-friendly design?
It absolutely does. Maury's core advice, pay attention to the human feeling. That gut reaction serves as that evolutionary red flag.
Yeah.
It's a crucial warning. Don't try to design beyond human instinct just because technology makes it possible.
Respect our built-in warnings.
Precisely. Our primal reactions tell us something important about what serves or harms our deeper well-being. Aiken suggests we should learn from history here. Think about how child labor laws evolved over time as industrialization took hold. Society eventually adapted, self-regulated, protected its most vulnerable.
We figured it out eventually.
Right. This time, she argues, it's about protecting our mental, our emotional, our social well-being in the face of this rapidly advancing digital frontier. 5.3, a call to action for collective intelligence.
So ultimately, this isn't about technological determinism, is it? Not just passively blaming the tech, saying it's an unstoppable force doing things to us. It feels more like a powerful call to action for collective intelligence, for conscious choice.
Precisely. That's exactly the takeaway. Humans are uniquely good at thinking deeply, at discussing complex issues, at adapting. As network scientists, she quotes, like to say, it's all about sense-making. We need to actively make sense of what's happening around us and to us.
We need to talk about it, understand it.
Yes. And acknowledge the incredible freedom technology does offer, but also recognize the great responsibility, as the saying goes, that comes with that freedom. This is a crucial moment, Aiken believes, a real window as opportunity for us as a global society to actively shape this cyber frontier rather than just being passively shaped by it.
It's about being informed, having these kinds of conversations, and collectively pushing towards a more human-centered digital future.
That's the goal. Outro.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe the core message to remember is this. The internet, technology itself. It isn't inherently good or bad. Its profound impact on how we behave, on our kids, our values, even how we see reality. It really depends entirely on our awareness, on the design choices we collectively demand and make, and on our individual and collective responsibility.
We're at this unique inflection point, a genuine window of opportunity, as Aiken puts it, to consciously shape this frontier. to try and make it simple, insightful, and practical, serving us rather than the other way around.
And this leaves us with a really provocative final thought from Mary Aiken, one to maybe chew on. We are moving from natural selection to cyber selection.
Cyber selection.
When it comes to technology, she asks, should we be trying to design beyond human instinct just because we can?
That is quite the question to ponder. Should we?
Indeed. We really encourage you to reflect on that and maybe on how you personally can actively and practically help ensure that our evolving cyber society truly serves human well-being. Perhaps take a cue from Mary Aiken herself. She ends her book by suggesting going for a walk. Log off, step away, reconnect with the real world for a bit, and carry these insights into your own digital life. Thanks for diving deep with us.